Good morning, welcome. SimWorld today, Friday edition. Actually, the morning this time around. I'm Marsh, joined in the booth here for SimWorld today by Rick Blaze. Good morning, Rick. Glad to see you could make it home after your travels from what was a bit of a stinker last night in Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, good morning. The Alpha and the Omega of SimWorld today is here. It is Friday, so you know I'm showing up on Friday. It was a stinker on yesterday, but we made it through. Speaking of stinkers, you should keep your shoes on during the plane flight home. But let's move on.
All right, let's do exactly that. We'll get to the Fighting Illini lack of fight. We'll get to a top 10 team remaining undefeated, but let's start with the news out of Virginia where Tony Bennett has retired. That news broke yesterday. That is effective immediately. He is just started his 16th season at the helm of the Virginia Cavaliers, but no longer will he be there for this squad as he has stepped aside. Rick, what's your initial reaction to this team? Started the season 0-1 right now.
I mean, I I think first of all, congratulations to Tony Bennett for the career he's had coaching. I think coach and players alike know when it's time. And Virginia has a lot of talent with Johnny Baldwin and company there. And I don't think he thought he was the best man for the job. And maybe one game into the season, plus the off season, preseason, and things like that, he saw that maybe he wasn't getting through to the guys like maybe that's what I'm assuming, right? Could have been a whole myriad of other reasons why. But at the end of the day, I think he felt that another coach should step in and do something with this Virginia squad, this talented Virginia team. So he stepped down. I respect that. He didn't let it, waste time, and it's a bit of a shock, I'm sure, to the Virginia community. But he has to do what's best for him and his family, and I respect this decision.
I respect the decision. You are spot on all that, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this was not a one-party decision. There's been plenty of frustration in and around this Virginia Cavaliers team dating back to last season. And over the last handful of seasons, there's obviously been the fair share of challenges that Virginia has had from obviously winning the national championship is not a challenge, but year before that becoming the first number one seed to fall to a 16 seed in the opening round when they fell to UMBC. And I think that the relationship between the challenges they had last season and this decision to retire are not separate.
Mhm.
Um, I find it hard to believe, and we'll get people to tell us the opposite of this, and that's fine. But the fact that there were so many struggles last season, they started 0-1. Now that's too much to fire a guy over. But a guy like Coach Bennett does not get fired. Just like Coach Bill Belichick did not get fired from the New England Patriots. There's always a grassy, soft landing for those that have been good for programs and good for organizations. I feel as if that might be the landing that Coach Bennett found here.
Okay, that's fine, and I'm not pushing back against it. My only question is, why wait till one game is played in the season? You could have done it in the off season. Like
He could have.
one game doesn't determine how great or how terrible your team is. You knew this going into the season, what you have already. So
He
I
did.
doubt. It's kind of like I doubt very seriously the alumni are saying, "Okay, we're gonna give you the first game and see how it works, coach." Like that's not how that goes, right? So I think the time is a bit awkward, which had me to believe maybe it's a little bit. I'm not saying what you're saying is incorrect. Maybe there's a little bit more to the story. Maybe he has another offer that came on the table, or
Well,
maybe another candidate that the Virginia alumni, those decision makers, the director found in the weeds that maybe they want to bring in. I don't know, but I think there's just a smidge more to probably. I think what you're saying is true, plus a couple of cherries and pecans on top.
Well, this is not a program and a school that has proven to be able to make quick decisions. I mean, last season, was reported on multiple times that Virginia wanted to see more Johnny Baldwin as a athletic department, wanted to see more Johnny Baldwin and wanted to see more Tyson Simpson, and that never came to fruition. They never were able to exert their will a season ago. So while it's awkward that it's one game into the season, it's also just kind of par for the course for this program, which has been unable to kind of right the wrongs of this team. And by the way, they walk out, they score 56 points in their opener. They turn the ball over 19 times. Nothing of what they did is in the top 25 except for field goal percentage through one game. That's, again, a tiny sample size, but they didn't score, and they turned the ball over. And if you're a program and you're saying, hey, to your point, why one game? We think there could be change. Well, Johnny Baldwin only had the ball for 11 points. He shot 83% in that opener, because he didn't get the ball more. And so this could be a program that said, you say you're going to change things, and then we open up the book, and it's the same exact story from last season. I'm not saying that's it. I'm not saying that's 100% it. But I'm not saying I wouldn't be shocked if something came out in the coming weeks that said a little bit more
But you are saying the team, the AD, and the AD and the coach has been incompetent. That's what you are saying at that point.
I'm saying that maybe the decision to retire was not one person's decision. That's what I'm saying. That is my only thing that I'm saying. And we got to move because you got one little thing you're jumping in with.
I'm just saying. You also said the team, the decision making was incompetence by the.
I'm saying it could be. Because your point is why would you make the decision after one game? It's a valid question. It's a good question. My response to that is maybe this is a program that hasn't been able to.
Incompetent.
Potentially, they could have been challenging to make decisions. Could be this program's MO right now.
AKA incompetence. Okay, we can
challenged
move on now.
to make decisions. Sure. Who else could be challenged to make decisions? It's going to be the SP as they release their latest top 25 on Sunday, because Missouri and Illinois gave two very different cases for being and not being in the top 25 last night. Missouri rolls 103-68, one of the largest wins in the season. It's up there with Tennessee's blowouts, though Tennessee never did it against a top 25, top 15 team as Illinois was as of last night. That is not going to continue on Sunday. 103-68, 31 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists from Japheth Towns. Japheth Towns looked like Japheth Towns last night. Missouri moves to 2-2. Their 2 wins have come against good opponents. Their 2 losses have come against really good opponents as well. We talked about it a little bit on the game broadcast last night, Rick, but this was a masterclass by Missouri in getting to the paint, attacking the paint, and off-ball movement.
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute freak fest last night. They got to the hole. They got to the hole. They did what they wanted to do. They drove and they penetrated, and they did it well all night long. A freak fest, I'm telling you. And for these transgressions, Illinois will no longer be in the top 12. We're not top 25. They're now number 72. They're now
72 or 26. Ranked. What's the difference?
They're 72 ranked in the country, and they've earned it by losing. And look, the crazy part is they lost by 38. It wasn't that close.
Was it that?
They could have afforded. I don't know. Whatever the number is, it wasn't close as that.
35.
Yeah, they could have. They should have been a 45-point loss. The backup guys came in and got loosey with the ball, and a lot of turnovers happened at the end for Missouri. But this was a beat down to the highest magnitude of freak fest. Shout out to Missouri. If they're not in the teens when the new ranking come out on Sunday, then somebody's going postal.
Here's my biggest concern from this game is, regardless of where they end up, Illinois might still end up in the top 25 after last week, because they have good wins. I mean, they went on the road and did they beat Miami, or they lost by? No, they beat Mississippi State, who you of course love. But anyhow, my biggest concern with this, or biggest thing to watch for it rather, is how does this impact the selection committee come the postseason? Because Illinois, unless they win their conference championship, they're probably going to be, obviously, needing an at-large bid. How is the committee going to look at this, and how are they going to play the rest of the season where they look and say, okay, you lost by 35 in your home opener to your rival team. That's not something that normally exudes playoff potential team. And that's what Illinois is now going to have to fight against. So as they continue their regular season, it'll be very curious to me, is this a blip on the radar, or is this a team that ends up with, let's say, I don't know how many exact number, but let's say they're 20-12 and they're kind of a bubble team. This is the type of game where the selection committee looks at it and says, this is why they shouldn't be here. They need to now play, I would say, if they needed to be an A-minus team to get into the postseason and be an at-large bid, I think they now need to be a grade or two above, an A to A-plus team the rest of the way, because this is that bad, that devastating of a loss. The fortunate part is it's Game 4 of the regular season. The unfortunate part is it's your home opener as a number 12 team against your rival, and you didn't show up. The committee's going to take that into account come April, May, when we've got to start picking teams for the postseason.
Correct. If it's a close call and if it's one of those decisions where it's between this team and that team, they're going to go and look at this game and say, oh, sorry, Illinois, there was no fighting in the Illini on that night. And that for that reason, you're out.
And if this ends up being just one of, let's say, 6 or 7 losses during the regular season and Illinois looks great the rest of the way, then this is a different conversation. But if this is the one game that we have, again, we've seen Tennessee blow some teams out. We have not seen a team with the expectations, and to this point in the season, the showcasing of abilities of Illinois lose to this extent. All right, let's move to Alabama and Memphis, a non-broadcast or a locally broadcast game, but it's the Alabama Crimson Tide who moved to 5-0 with an 88-79 win. Rodrigo falls 21 points off the bench in 20 minutes to lead Alabama. Dwayne Epps added 20, but it was Rodrigo Falls carrying the show. We talked about this briefly, Rick, on the broadcast yesterday, that I was kind of surprised about DJ Childs. Childs just 13 points, 5 of 12 shooting. It did not matter. This team went on a 10-0 run, Alabama did, to close out this one after Memphis rallied back to take a 79-78 win. Bama moves to 5-0, number 4 team in the country with a serious case to potentially be number 1. They shouldn't be. Tennessee should be, but Bama making their case heard.
Tennessee is not going to be, and we know why they're not going to be number 1. Like they got the draws shocked off of them, so they're not going to be number 1. Now there's Tennessee, yes, Tennessee
just steamrolled again. What are we talking about? They had one loss.
But I'm saying, coming up, that's the loss I'm talking about. The loss. That's why they're not going to be number 1. They were number 1. Then as soon as they got ranked number 1, they got the draws taken down from them.
Let's get back to Bama and Memphis before we dive too deep.
So logic would say Kentucky's probably in the running for number 1 since they were already up there. But I can make a serious argument why Alabama should jump Kentucky. They're both 5. They're both undefeated, but Alabama just looks great. Every game they look great. Not only that, every game there's somebody on their team stepping up. DJ Charles is going to get all the highlights because of the name, but Rodrigo Falls has balled. DeJuan Epps has had moments. Quincy Henderson has balled, and Levin Cutler started off with the first game of the season balling. And we haven't even mentioned the diaper Dan of Aiden Weaver yet, right? He has yet to kind of really get going. This team is really, really, really deep, and and it has to be exciting for the Crimson Tide when you can go into a game and any one of those guys can step up, and it doesn't have to all be about DJ Childs. I think I can make a case, and I'm talking myself into it. Alabama should be ranked number 1. Roll Tide.
Well, they've got the track record for it. Beat Arizona, Arizona is going to be ranked in the next SP Top 25. There's no question about that. They have played that good. Iowa, they beat on the road, and you want to talk about big wins, 94-63. I think we need to do a deep dive on some of these home-ranked teams getting spanked at home because Alabama did that to Iowa, 94-63. They just beat Memphis, who's a top 25 team. Even with this loss, Memphis is still a top 25 team, in my opinion, in the country. That's 3 teams that, as of Sunday, are going to be ranked in the top 20. Iowa might not officially be, but they're good enough to be. It's just we're still kind of figuring everything out. They're going to have a huge matchup next week on the 22nd of October. Duke comes to town on
Mm,
CBS on Monday.
mm, mm.
That is going to be the first. I won't say real test, but that's going to be the latest test for Alabama. And we talked yesterday on the broadcast that Tennessee and Kentucky are the two teams to try to be vying for the SEC championship. They met in the title game last season. It feels as if they're meeting there again. You talked about Mississippi State being a potential threat to that. Arkansas could be a threat to that, although they lost to Princeton. Maybe Missouri's in that. But Alabama is the prince of this party right now. If Tennessee and Kentucky are king and queen, Alabama's the prince, and they might have a little vial of poison they might be slipping into somebody's drink to move up, because this team has looked fantastic. I've been shocked that DJ Childs hasn't been good. As good as maybe expected. And it hasn't mattered because guys like Dwayne Epps, Quincy Henderson, and last night Rodrigo Falls have stepped in and been absolute playmakers and difference makers for the Tide, making them so much deeper. This was a team we wondered, hey, if DJ Childs isn't ready to go on that ankle, and maybe he's still feeling some of the impacts of it, are they going to be okay? They've been more than okay, Rick. 5-0. They've got a big matchup with Duke coming, and I don't think it's a deep take to say that Alabama's a number one team. I think they're going to get votes to be number one. I think, to your point, it's probably going to end up being Kentucky. Hell, you can make the case for Gonzaga, who just moved to 4-0 with a big win at home over Miami. But Alabama's right there. If they're not one, they're probably number two.
No, and and if you're number two, you're asking number two, who does number one work for? So, because you're trying to be up to that spot, and again, it's going to be a dogfight. Kentucky looks good, and I'm a Jameson Johnson homer. Alabama looks great, and that's the eye test right now. Kentucky looks good. Alabama looks great. So for my money, I'm going with the team that right now looks great, and that's Alabama.
And they will get a chance to look, or at least
Roll Tide.
prove that greatness on Monday against Duke. That game is on CBS at 8.
Don't miss that. That's going to be
That
crazy.
is our show, and unfortunately, that's probably game of the week on a Monday yet again, after we just got a game of the week last week on a Monday, which was also a dandy. All right, that's our show. We're coming back
That's
around.
it? Wait, that's it already? We're done?
We did quite a bit, but yes, it is. We got a couple items coming here next week that we'll be able to recap. But let's close on one quick thing. Gonzaga just won, Kentucky won, and Alabama's already obviously undefeated. Right, and assuming that you're going to bump out UCLA and Tennessee, probably going to end up at 4-5. Even though they both lost this week, I don't think there's enough track record to say those teams don't deserve to be in the top 5. Rank Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Alabama for me.
Alabama 1, Kentucky 2, Gonzaga 3.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Gonzaga, who just beat previously number 5 Miami 80-79. Games on the docket tonight. Everything local broadcast. Marquette and Georgia both trying to find their way back into the top 25. Arkansas goes on the road to Creighton, trying to redeem themselves after that Princeton loss. And then Richmond, Ole Miss, a little Oxford, Mississippi battle to close out our Friday. And then again,
Arkansas,
we're back on
that's
Monday.
a trap game, Arkansas. Be ready, because Creighton will be. That's a trap game, Arkansas. I'm telling you now.
Well, they already had their trap game. That was Princeton, where they didn't show up. And I stand corrected. Duke, Alabama is on Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. All right, that's our show. We're back on Monday, recapping the week in action. A little bit of SWFL. One more brutal trip to London for the Jags as they continue their pursuit of firing Doug Peterson. We'll probably not recap that because it's not worth being a headliner. But we'll be back on Monday. Rick, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for joining us.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld.